Um, okay, tell me about this almond story.
Oh, you want to hear this almond story? Here's what happened, right? So it's carelessness on my part because I was just eating the almonds absent-mindedly, and um, without even realizing it, there was this huge buildup of crushed almonds and saliva in the back of my throat. And like I said, I didn't realize that there was this huge buildup. I didn't realize it was that bad. So uh, then I had difficulty breathing, and there was an obstruction, obviously, of crushed almonds and saliva in my throat, which meant I started to, like I said, have difficulty breathing, and then I started to cough to try to, cough it out, cough it up. When that didn't work, and I was just heaving, just wheezing and just trying, gasping, literally gasping for breath, I performed the Heimlich on myself. So I took my my left fist, and just above the navel and below the breastbone, I placed it there. And then I took my right hand, placed it over my left fist, and I uh, gave it several upward thrusts, which helped me dislodge, that bunch of food that I had trapped in my throat. I remember coughing like a maniac, which is a good sign because if you can cough, there are those who say there are those in the know who would say that once you do that, you're good, in that you can still have the ability to breathe. But I got to tell you, there were some moments there that I just thought, it is not it wasn't for the faint of heart. It's a miracle that I did not panic like I just did not lose it. So yeah, that happened. I'm just grateful to remember what to do in a situation like that, and I think it's invaluable to just about anybody, especially if you're living alone and there's nobody around. What do you do in a situation like that? And it's important that one reads up on it. But that was a pretty scary moment, and yeah, I am just grateful to be alive. But that's
Jared,
not important right now.
Jared, Jared, Jared,
Yes.
Jared.
Yes.
No one chokes on almonds, Jared. No one. He's the first person I've ever heard. Okay, okay, that's not true. I have eaten almonds and I've felt that it has been hard to swallow. So
Yeah.
I kind of stopped.
Yeah.
Nobody absent-mindedly keeps eating almonds. What are you doing? What were you
No, I was just
doing?
listening. Okay. Well, as okay. Well, I was listening to um, something on the BBC, and I was so
Oh,
intent. I was listening to it rather intently, and
oh.
I was just popping
You're
almond after
popping
almond.
almonds. You
Yeah.
popping almonds. You popping almond popper.
Yeah, just crunching them and everything, and just leaving them there, lodged in the back of my throat, which, in retrospect, was a stupid thing to do. And I realized, oh my holy God, wait a minute,
Yeah, but I'm
and
glad you're
that's
okay.
where the ordeal started. Yeah,
First of all, I'm glad you're okay. That was scary and funny at the same time, which is typical of you, John.
yeah, scary and funny. I,
You've
I,
done
you know me. I've always done scary and funny in equal measure. And like I said, my first thought was when this is going on, I said, I can't believe this is how I am going to die. This has got to be. Come on.
I am not going to die by almonds. No.
I am not going to let
Oh.
a bunch of nuts kill me. I'm
Yeah,
not going to do that.
I've been nutted to death.
I am, I am not going to let nuts kill me. I'm not going to let that happen.
Going out like
I mean,
this.
we already have nuts in Parliament, for Christ's sakes. We're not going to have nuts, the literal kind, to kill me. No, I refuse.
This is not. This is not happening. Not happening.
But
Nothing.
I'll tell you something. But I'll tell you something. I mean, when no, but in all honesty, and all kidding aside, uh, there are so many instances in which one can find oneself in a situation where you think everything is okay, and then before you realize it, and I don't mean to sound philosophical or anything like that. I mean, I don't want to. You talk about, everybody wants to talk about the fragility of life and all that craziness, and there is some truth to that.
I saw
But
the light. I was going.
I didn't. But that's just it. I
That's,
really didn't get to
that's the
see
light. That's the light
my
bulb
life didn't flash
thing.
before my eyes. My sole purpose at that point was just to breathe. I just wanted to breathe, and I did, and I thought to myself, I am going to find a way to do it. So that's when I thought, okay, seeing that nobody's around, and you've got to try this, which is scary by itself. And it was raining on top of all of that, hard. So even if you try to raise a commotion, hardly anybody was going to hear you. So that kind of added to that. That was an added dimension to the little mini horror show that I had endured. Um, so yeah.
I don't mean to
So
laugh. I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, I keep thinking this could only happen to Jared.
yeah, it can only happen to me, right? Um,
Why am I not surprised that this could happen to Jared? Most people stub their toe. You know, most people, most people cut themselves with a knife while cutting vegetables or something. Jared chokes on almonds. But you do know that there was a study I think I read a couple of years ago where they had said that there's a calculation, not a calculation, there is a ranking of things that people die from alone in their apartments.
oh, okay.
Choking is one of them. I can't remember if that was the number one, but
Yeah.
one of the things that I do remember is slipping in the bathroom.
Yeah.
People who slip in the bathroom, they knock themselves out, and if there's a
Right.
bathtub, they fall into the bathtub and they drown. You know,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. So
Yes.
slipping, and I saw a news report yesterday. This woman in Diego Martin died because she slipped on the concrete and fell
Oh
down the
dear.
stairs. And she
Oh
was
my
4
goodness. Yes.
so yeah, it is a very serious thing if you are home alone. And good for you that and everybody who's listening. Remember, keep your head because Jared, you kept your head, which is good. Don't panic. Remember the Heimlich maneuver.
The Heimlich maneuver. It is. Listen, I would recommend it to just about anybody because it happens more often than people realize. In
Yeah.
fact, according to an article in Men's Health magazine, which I saw online, which I read online a few moments ago, choking is the third leading cause of death, especially for people who happen to live alone.
Yeah.
It's a lot more
I know
than
choking is
people
high up
think.
on the list. I just
It's really up there on the list, and it's worse when you have nobody there. But anyway, the thing to remember is to perform the Heimlich maneuver. If you're home alone and you happen to experience what I had experienced a few moments ago, the thing to do is to take your left hand, you put into a fist, make sure you place it just above the navel, the belly button, and below the breastbone of your chest. Then take your right hand, place it over your left, and just give it several quick upward thrusts and press it against the diaphragm and just push it like that. And it also works if you're hunched over a hard surface like a table or a chair or something like that. But eventually you will get to cough it out. And that's what happened with me. I was able to, and you would be surprised at how small it was because it doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much to obstruct airflow um, in that area. It doesn't take much. It could be the size of a teardrop. And but let me tell you, once I found that I was able to breathe freely, it was one of the most beautiful feelings in the world.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
There's two things I wanted to say, but that's not important right now. Well, it's still important.
But that's not important.
I want to talk about it some more because I have some actually that has triggered some stories about working in the agency. So let's just introduce ourselves because we didn't. Uh,
Yes.
I'm
So
Ian,
my name,
I'm
you
Ian
you
Reid.
go ahead.
I'm Ian Reid. You're Jared Butts.
Yes.
We're both two insane people. One of us who has just tried to kill himself. No, I'm kidding. He didn't try to kill
Yeah.
himself because of because of the horrors of working in advertising. You know, we wake up and
Well,
sweat in the
advertising.
middle of the night,
Yeah.
sweating in the middle of the night because I actually had a dream, lucid dreams. But I worked in the agency business for 18 plus years, and Jared a slightly younger amount of time, but he has worked
Yes.
in the media, and he's worked.
I've worked in media. I've worked in the media
Jared has worked
and
Yeah, John has
advertising.
worked on both sides of the fence. He's worked in the
Right.
advertising, he's written the ads, and he's also read the ads on radio. So
Exactly. That's what I do.
you can
Yeah.
find Jared. What is the name of your radio station? Your show?
Right. The radio station is Platinum Hits 103.5 FM. It's called, the radio show is called Platinum in the AM, where we play lots of current stuff as well as music from the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. So
Late
yes.
80s days. Jeez.
Yes, that yeah. And that music is usually a derivative of pop, rock, that sort of thing. Sometimes a little bit of R&B if we feel like it. But yeah, if
Yes.
we feel like it.
So coming back to that, your it's good because I was literally banging my head to try to figure out what we're going to talk about today. Not going to say that I totally forgot that we had to do this today because of
Yes,
everything that happened.
but everything happens. But you know, it's a good thing. It's fortuitous that we were able to have this now, because if we were supposed to have it at 1 o'clock, at that point, I was just sounding like a phone sex
yes,
operator.
you
So
would
yeah,
not be able to speak.
I would not have been able to speak, and I would have been doing like like that,
I
and
would
somebody
have
was
been
like,
like,
"Ah,
I would have been like, tap 3 times to spell A. Tap 4 times to
it would have been it
E
would have been awkward.
R
Let's put it that way.
ECH. What? What are you saying, John? I
But
it's
yes,
on a serious or not so serious note is that has led me to remember the accident stories at the agency, and there were
oh
quite a bit. I
yes,
witnessed some accidents. One of which is our great friend, best friend, Rhonda, who runs Saltwater Studios. So shout out to Rhonda. Rhonda's
hi Rhonda.
Rhonda's my girl.
Yeah.
Rhonda and I used to work together. She was the copywriter and I was the artist, and we had some epic fights. Yeah, for those of you, Rhonda's short, cute, lady who's very, very opinionated, and she and I had some big fights. And I mean, we're good friends, but Rhonda's thing. But poor Rhonda, the way the agency was organized is that it kind of surrounded a stairwell. So the whole creative department is around the stairwell, and the stairwell is just 2 flights. So stair one, platform, then stair two.
Yeah.
And the story behind that stairwell, if you know the company, the story behind that stairwell was it was rebuilt three times because they couldn't get
Oh,
it right. And they had to
oh,
hire, the story is they had to hire a Grenadian guy who came in
okay.
and redesigned it from scratch. But
Goodness.
it's not his fault. I'm not saying it's his fault, but because of the way this building was designed, I don't think the stairwell was ever designed to work with this building. And the stairs were very uneven. So they
Right.
put these planks of wood to kind of, when you have the stair and then you have to drop down, stair and drop down. Where there was a drop
Yeah.
down, these
Yeah.
planks of wood, you know it.
Yeah.
And there were parts of that where the wood did not go flush with the flat. So they were little lip.
But
And I was just remember just working and hearing, oh my God. I'm like, who was that? Everybody got up and it was like And there's Rhonda sprawled out on the second platform. She had fallen from the top and
Oh
rolled,
dear.
and I think she rolled. She twisted her ankle very, very badly. She had to go out for
Oh
good,
my goodness.
very badly. And they actually came back the next day and they tried to fix the steps. And a lot of people tripped on those steps. And it's not the agency's fault. It's just how the steps, because of the way they're designed, you have to be very, very careful going down those steps and even going up the steps. People have fallen. Now the thing about the joke is that nobody who was drunk ever fell down those steps. So the
Well, that's
question,
got to be there's got to be a lesson in irony somewhere around there.
yeah, but Ronald always said that the only way to go down those steps or go up those steps is drunk.
And not sustain any injuries whatsoever. Wow,
That was one story.
man, that is something that I've okay. That yeah.
Yeah, so poor Rhonda fell down the steps, and she's okay.
There have
She
been
no
yeah.
long lasting um, issues with that. But I mean, they did fix the steps. I don't remember anybody really falling down. I remember people stumbling now and then, but nobody actually ever really fell down the steps. Um, there are stories about ancillary about those steps. I won't get into that now. But
Yeah, yeah.
the other one was that this artist, everybody knows this artist. She's pretty famous now, Shalini. Shout out to Shalini, that's my girl. Shalini,
Actually,
Shalini is the fine artist. She does a lot of paintings of nude Indian women, which is awesome, always awesome.
with you, Ian, yes, it would be, wouldn't it?
You too, Jared. Stop talking. You don't talk yourself.
All right, all right, all right. Fine, I plead guilty.
Shalini was using the big handheld guillotine. You know these office guillotines that you have, the big one. Yeah.
Oh, those things are dangerous.
Guillotine that was, used to cut down paper and shape
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And we were all working, and I know we're just hearing Shalini cutting, right? Kashink, 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 and then it stops. And then you didn't hear anything for a while, and then Shalini kind of walks up to this other artist who's the work, and his name was Jerome. And she said, Jerome, and I was just right next door, so I heard her say, Jerome, could you take me to the hospital? Very, very calmly, very quietly. Can you take me to the hospital, please? So Jerome was like, what's wrong? What happened? And then she takes her hand off of, I think she had covered her finger with paper or something.
Oh,
And she pulled it off, and Jerome fainted.
yeah. I think I probably would have done the same thing.
So
Jesus.
Simone Simone Jocelyn. Simone Jocelyn
I
ran
just,
over. And
yes.
she said, oh my God, we have to take you to the hospital. And she's like, yeah, that's what I've been trying to tell people. And it turned out I didn't see it. I didn't look. I didn't see it. But Jerome was like, yeah, we got to handle this. I think he passed out, or he kind of like.
I should be laughing, but I probably would have done the same thing.
Afterwards, it was funny that everybody thought, but people who see blood, they pass out, instinctively. That's why they say you don't know you have a cut until you actually see it. Your body,
Right.
Anyway, so it turns out she had to get like 2 stitches on her finger because she literally sliced off the tip of her finger, and she saw bone.
Goodness gracious. Goodness.
And she took it, and she took the piece of finger and she embedded it in amber, and she made a necklace out of it. And I said, Shalini, you're the only person I know in my life, because these are weird artist type people. You're weird. You're. That's actually, she still has that amber embedded piece of finger. She said,
well, it's not.
that fingernail too. It has fingernail and the tip of my finger.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so she
No,
said,
those guillotines are the worst. They are just I don't trust those devices at all. I mean, I can recall a time. I think this happened like about 2014 when one of the artists in the agency. I think pretty much the same thing happened to her, but it wasn't as bad as Shalini's episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was a bit worried about it. But that is just part and parcel of what to expect when you're working in the agency. You
When you're
are
in the
liable.
creative department, I don't recall any of the account executives or any of the other people having an accident. I don't remember. Maybe I could be wrong, but the
Now remember, when you're talking about the creative department, right? You're talking about what we like to think is the nucleus of the entire operation. This is where all the ideas are born, and we come up with concepts and ideas, and this is how we do it. Sometimes, I mean, no writer has ever, as far as I know, no writer has ever sustained any injury, with the exception of probably carpal tunnel syndrome, if that is the case. But sometimes, writing itself is a lot of hard work. People tend to think, oh, just because you write, you just sit behind a desk and you do absolutely nothing.
yeah,
But it requires a lot of mental output,
yeah,
and sometimes when you're doing that kind of stuff, things will happen.
yeah.
And I remember one time we had a meeting. This was in the afternoon,
Mhm.
which did not help matters because after lunch, ethnic fatigue begins to set in.
We call it itis for those of
It causes itis, and then we have a particular word that goes with it, but we won't mention it right now because
that's not important. That's definitely not important right now.
that's definitely not important right now.
Yeah.
So I can remember a time when we had a meeting involving a particular client, and the client was trying to come up with what she called important guidelines with respect to the brand name, and how to approach it from a professional perspective. In other words, boring crap.
Mhm.
So here I am, just and and it was the place is cool, and it's doubly cool because of the rain that was falling. And she was talking, and then I suddenly realized that my eyeballs were moving independently of each other. So, and the urge to nod off was strong. And then before I realized what was taking place, I do remember getting into some kind of I felt like I felt like I spent several minutes in a sensory deprivation tank. I felt absolutely nothing, but just a kind of calm. I had dozed off, and yeah, which was embarrassing for me because I
You,
normally never do that.
but you weren't snoring. Nobody,
Yeah,
you don't. You were snoring,
I wasn't exactly snoring.
but you're
Let's just
breathing
say
kind
that
of
I
hard.
was, let's just say that I was trying to imitate a certain land creature after consuming a large meal and his mouth is wide open. That indicates that yes, you've been totally gone, and you don't want to, like I said, it was really quite the experience,
Yeah, yeah.
because I had never done that before. And the lady who was talking and about her brand and everything, she was not too thrilled.
No,
Um,
no. But she wasn't a client. She's a client.
she's a client, yeah, but she
Yeah.
wasn't exactly thrilled because, um, and
She bored you
I
to death.
offered profuse apologies to everybody concerned, but I was just, there are times when the human body just can only put up with so much,
And
and that
that leads me to a very funny story, actually, because
really
for
okay.
those of you uninitiated, well, for those of you who listened to the previous podcast, you know that we have what we call Carnival, which is
Yes.
February into March, and for those 3 4 weeks before the actual date of Carnival, people fet to go and they party all night, all day, all night, all day. But because on a weekend they could party the whole weekend and then come to work for Monday morning, or some
Hmm.
actually have come from these parties directly from the party straight to work, and it's quite interesting how these things work. But anyway, this one year we had a temporary worker working in the accounts department. Um, Nice girl. Forgot her name. Can remember the face, but I forgot her name. I actually have a picture somewhere of this. I don't know where. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm walking past a cubicle, and I'm walking past, and she's just sitting there, and I didn't see her actually move. I went to the kitchen, and I came back with tea or coffee or something, and I noticed that her eyes are closed, and she's
Whoa.
literally sitting straight up, her head straight facing the screen of the computer, her hand on the
Wow.
nose, and she's sleeping.
That's a gift.
Mouth is not open. She's not snoring. I'm like, I remember the girl name. I say, hey, hey, and she doesn't acknowledge me because you could hear the breathing, like the regulated breathing of you sleeping, but she's not snoring.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy shit, this woman fell asleep at her and usually people like they kind of cool down and they go on their arm and they fall asleep. Most
Yeah.
people are fettered the night before. You see them like you see them cover themselves over their sweater or something because it's lunchtime and they're going to take a 15-minute nap or 20-minute nap. This girl fell asleep, and I took a picture. I don't know where I put it, but I took a picture, and I think somebody else who was in the cubicle had come back later after meeting and said she slept for like about a good half an hour in that position.
Goodness gracious.
That is
That's
a very trendy thing for people to fall asleep like that because this guy who worked in the creative department, he fell asleep at his desk in that position. And people were laughing. They're like, he's literally staring at the screen. His eyes is closed. His hand is on the mouse. His other hand is on the keyboard. And he's there in a position that he's actually looking like he's doing work. The only thing that would have made it perfect is if he was wearing shades. We tried that actually. We tried that actually. I think it was Ronald or somebody. One of them cut out eyes from paper and they stuck it into the glasses and they put it on somebody's teeth while they were sleeping. You know, so look at it while they were. It was funny as hell. It's funny as hell. Those are the kind of pranks we used to do.
oh my God. I could tell you the story. I could tell you the story of what happened as we were talking about carnival, right? One particular carnival, I think this must have been about this probably was in either 2008 or 2009. I'm guessing 2008. We had a client at the time. It was our largest client, our biggest supplier, and one of the promotional things that we had to do, I had to um, go every Friday as a rule in the run up to Carnival, you would have a free concert, right, featuring various soca artists at a particular venue. This was in Woodford Square.
Hmm.
In fact, it was called Soca in the Square.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I had to do as part of the promotional campaign, um, lovely young lady by the name of Lemoy. Hi, Lemoy, if you're listening.
Hello, lemon chicken.
she, but she's a lovely young lady, inside and out.
Really
Anyway,
lovely.
yeah, okay. I was dressed. You know how when Brad Pitt started his career, he started out as a chicken mascot. Well, I started out as a citrus fruit mascot, a lime mascot, if you will,
Oh.
complete with sunglasses and everything. The thing about it is, now I had never done anything like that before in my life, but it can get to be pretty problematic when you're wearing some of the fabric and the fabric makes you itch,
Mhm.
and you're trying to and you're already trying to use your hands to move about and stuff, but you're itching in a particular part of your anatomy that you want to scratch really, really badly, but you can't because the way the costume is designed, it prevents you from reaching that particular part.
Yeah.
So I'm really grumpy at this point. And it's also difficult to look through because in spite of everything, it's the costume itself is it's shaped like a globe. It's
Yeah.
a fruit, for crying out loud. It's not like a banana. It's not a pineapple. It's a lime. So it doesn't really offer that much. It doesn't offer much mobility. But anyway, the thing about it is, you have your little fans to try to keep you cool. It's loud. I had Lemoy trying to tell me something. I didn't exactly know what was going on, and I was trying to make my way down the stairs, which was, in retrospect, a really bad idea. And you know what happened after that? The lime keeled over. I keeled over inside the suit,
You
and
fainted.
I'm trying to get up.
You
No, I didn't
fainted.
faint.
Oh,
I just lost my balance.
all right.
So, right, and it caused a huge uproar among the crowd. Hey, look at him! Look at him! And it was funny because here I am on my back. I felt like, one of those insects that you're trying to get up and you can't, because you just can't, because
Well,
again,
you're like a turtle.
fortunately, I remember. Yeah, I was like a turtle. Yeah, pretty much trying to regain my footing and trying to get back upright. And I think at that time, by the time we got back up the staircase, which led to the stage, the costume itself had latched on a nail and tore the damn thing. And well, you got to part of my rear end and everything, and it was just chaos after that. But yeah. As long as I didn't get to see who it was inside the costume, I was good. So yeah, that I remember. But it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun nonetheless. So yeah.
I didn't remember it was you, but it was you all the time, or they got somebody else after?
No, they got somebody else after that, because they said that after that particular episode, they figured that being a mascot ain't all that it's cracked up to be. At least not for you. That ain't for you. And I said yes, I fully agree. So yeah, that I remember.
Speaking of mascots, we had the most successful viral ad campaign in Trinidad. Everybody says so. I say so, and nobody can tell me otherwise.
Yes.
A-Man. I don't know if you remember A-Man.
Do I remember it? Man, I voiced the promo for it, remember?
Right. A-Man was the brainchild of, well, myself, a bunch of other people. But the thing is that A-Man, the guy who dressed up as A-Man, was a soca star. Was not a big soca star. He was what's his name? Oh, I've forgotten his name now. He kind of faded.
Well, he was really big when remembered, but you would have remembered it by now.
He was part of the Synergy crew. He was part of what's his name? The guy who runs Synergy TV. He's a Lewis.
Oh,
I think it's part of Lewis who's crew. Anyway, point is that we dressed this guy up as a superhero, and I did not think he would go to the lengths that he did. But there was a video of him jumping from one level of the mall to the other. And we were told to take the video down because it was causing copycats.
Wow.
It was causing copycats. We had people trying to do it like that, and we got in trouble because the mall said he wasn't allowed to do it. We told him not to do it, and what kind of thing. We were in serious trouble. I didn't care. I'm like, that was fantastic. That got us like about 1,000. Well, at the time, this is when, the internet, social media thing had now started. So, it was...
Yeah, social media was its relative infancy at that time, right?
It was giving us notoriety. He had done a bunch of other stunts and he had done a bunch of other things. The product itself was crap. The product itself died. But again, it went out there and made such a big impression as a guerrilla marketing tactic that people have tried to copy it. It's always copied. So your big line person, Slap Chop guy. You remember Slap Chop guy? What was the other thing?
Yes, I do. I do remember that. Yes.
We did a bunch of trying to latch on to existing virals. But A-Man was the one we did that was original.
But that was truly organic, though. That was truly organic because it was something
Yeah.
that,
It's
yeah.
still out there on the in the YouTube. You could find it. Hey man, and we sang the theme song. I think we did He Man as a theme song. You
Yes.
sang the He Man theme song, Gabriel. Whatever, I can't remember. Anyway, the point is, it was one of the few times, or the one time that I remember doing something that was truly viral in its. The other one was what we did for BPTT, which was um, the tweet thing, I for TNT. I
Right.
think
I remember that.
it went viral, and people like, oh, well, it went viral because of BPTT. No, it went viral because we latched it on to the flooding victims who had used it to communicate how to get relief to the flood victims in Diego Martin at the time. And
That was around 2012, I think.
yeah, I for TNT became,
Yeah.
once one of these celebrities latched onto it, it grew out of that. I think it was I remember it well. It was Fayan. What's Fayan's last name? Not
Fan
Fayan.
Lions.
Fayan Lyons. She tweeted it. She used that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden everybody just started using it, and it just went through the roof. And I for TNT became this mega successful, thing. And I was very proud of that because that was one of the things that we came up with as a team, to to provide, because it was intended for that. That's what we wanted it for. We didn't want it just to be putting out, you know, hey, good morning, I for TNT, I love Trinidad. That wasn't what it was intended for. It was intended to help collate, people into a movement. And I think we did, for at least a brief period, we did that. And that was good. That was some good stuff. I have yet to see something like A-Man and I for TNT as like that. Everything is so, manufactured now. It's really manufactured. So
It's regulated. It's not. There's nothing. You see, that's just it. I mean, the thing about it is, we were fortunate, you and I, in that we were given relatively free reign to come up with particular ideas and concepts in the hope that somehow it would take off, that it would catch on.
yeah.
And if we
Oh,
genuinely,
failures, huh? There were a lot of failures. There were a lot of failures. Don't get me wrong. We know
no question, no
failures.
question, no question. But if we were given the opportunity to work with something, if it was something that we genuinely believed in, and we
Mhm.
said, yes, this is something that can work because we're determined to see it through no matter what,
Yeah.
then yeah, and that's why A-Man was so successful, because you believed in it. There were a lot of other people who believed in it, and that's what really mattered, at the time. But again, with everything that's been going on in this day and age, and in terms of modern advertising, contemporary advertising, I think we'd be pretty much hard pressed to find anything out there that would again genuinely attract the attention of your viewing audience, because there's so many things out there right now just competing for that attention. I mean, remember when we were in advertising, all we had to contend with was, to a certain degree, Facebook, YouTube, possibly Twitter, and now you have things like um, TikTok and a host of other things,
Yeah.
which is just insane because people are doing all sorts of crazy stuff on TikTok.
Yeah.
It's definitely an app for the younger folks, which is not to say that older folks can't use it. I mean, they can. I've seen that. But by and large, that is just an example of what, today, what people today are more into. They just want to come up with a 15 to 20-second blurb, and they hope that can somehow generate the kind of likes or approvals or whatever metric it is that folks use nowadays.
Yeah.
So yeah.
On a side note, I have been, just for our audience, I've been banned from Facebook until Saturday.
Yes, we know. I actually missed your sorry hide. I was wondering about that.
I
What is the real deal, honestly?
so
Because
Okay, so the way Facebook works is you get a warning since Mr. Donald. We do Facebook as since they're appearing at the Senate hearing committees. Facebook basically went to the community guidelines people and created an algorithm or a bot that would scan keywords for anything that you post. It's not a person. There's no person looking at your post and going, I don't like this, clicking no. It's a program that's constantly looking at what you're posting. So the minute you post something that is out of the rules that they have determined, what they call the community guidelines, which
Yeah.
is very vague, very very vague. But it they can't. To be honest, they can't be draconian. You can't say, well, you know, you can't say this and you can't that. But it's turning out to be that because
Yeah.
when so, for example, one of the major problems is the word Nazi. The word Nazi in itself is not a bad word. In the sense, you're supposed to be able to use it in the context of, well, think of history, think of Nazism, think of
Yeah.
people did bad things, and it's supposed to be a word that you use to describe, period in history.
Right.
It has become a word used to describe somebody. And Facebook is like, you can't use that word. So the minute you use the word not, immediately puts a block on you and says, you cannot use this word. It's against our community guidelines. We're giving you a warning or some word that's similar. So like you mentioned the N word the other previously, you use the N word or you write it in a comment and say immediately you get this warning coming up saying no, you can't use that word. You are you this is your first warning. If you do this again, you will be banned. So
Right.
I'm there writing out. I did not use the word Nazi. I did not use the word um, N-word, any of those things. What what I was doing was my first infraction, which was last year, was I quoted George Carlin.
Oh yeah, really?
I quoted George
Seven
Carlin.
dirty words. George Carlin. Okay.
Right? George Carlin is um, women are crazy because men are stupid, right? And
Yeah.
stupid because women are crazy. I think that's the quote, right? I just copied and pasted it in relation to somebody talking about, why men are so. I think the comment was why men so. I wrote it. I didn't use quotation marks. Maybe I should have used the quotation mark. I don't know. But I immediately got this. You have been banned for 24 hours. I'm like, what? Why would I be banned for 24 hours? And it's George Carlin. It's a quote.
Yeah. I mean, it's George Carlin. I mean, how
No,
could you get
no,
into trouble for quoting George
no,
Carlin? I don't
not banned
understand.
for 24 hours. So I'm like, all right, cool. I had to be very careful of what I say. I then went and posted. I don't know I think I had posted something. I don't know what it was, but it was obviously something bad. I think I said, listen. I think it was in the case of vaccinations. Somebody, anti-vaxxer, was sharing anti-vaxxer stuff. And I said,
Right.
listen, it'd probably be just safer that you just kill yourself.
Oh my goodness.
I think that was definitely wrong. It was wrong of me to write, but immediately I got banned for 5 days,
Yeah.
right? Or I got banned for 24 hours again. I can't remember one of the two. So I'm like, oh, okay, move on. I mean, I put in a request to be unbanned, but they said no. It goes against our community guidelines, which means they're very, very, very ultra sensitive about any of these words that you use. The keywords are the key. So our friend or my friend Travis Narine had posted something about why men are generalized as being bad, right? And I kind of wrote sarcastically in my mind, it's a sarcastic comment. I wrote, yeah, men are dogs. And I just wrote that press return. And the minute I press return, you've been banned for 7 days for contributing for going against community guidelines. I'm like, what? Nah, come on. So then I said, I I think this is an error. I was like, no, no, you went you called men something bad. I'm like, what? So then I went and they asked, well, if you want an arbitrary committee to take a look at it. I said, yes, I want an arbitration committee to take a look at it. Apparently, there's a new thing. It's called Facebook arbitration,
Ah, okay.
right?
There we
So,
go.
and you have to fill out a form and you fill out these questions and they give you the community guidelines to read and they tell you which part of the community guidelines do you think that you did not infract. I'm like, come on, really? I'm like, so then the last question I asked is, why do you think you should be your account should be reinstated? I'm like, because you are not taking into consideration one, that I'm being sarcastic. The bot can never tell that. Two, it was joke. The bot can never tell that. And three, this is what we say to each other in the context of our language. That Trinidadians would say this, hey, use our real dog boy. That's part of our culture.
That, yeah.
You are thinking that this is not part of our culture, then you're being racist towards my culture.
Well,
Justice Warrior, let me be Justice Warrior. And let's see what happens. I want to see what happens. It's just a good experiment to see what happens.
It is really something when you look at this sort of thing and you're telling yourself, obviously there are some folks at Facebook, they're not exactly the sharpest tools in the shed.
No.
Because what you may find offensive, somebody else might not find offensive, but downright funny.
Yeah.
For example, I mean, if we're in the States and we say something, somebody's going to get offended. Oh no, why did you, they start to clutch the pearls and they start to talk about the vapors and all that stuff. But here is an entirely different kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So that if we're going to say something, if I were to say, hey, hole, what are you doing? That would be considered, okay, well, but that's how we talk.
Yeah.
And we don't mean anything by it.
Yeah.
And but the folks at Facebook, they really do need to just relax and have some wine or something and just take it light.
To pull it back into a marketing perspective, we talk about TikTok. TikTok is the latest thing. TikTok is not American; it's Chinese.
It is Chinese, yes.
Right? So people are like, yeah, but Facebook not free. I go in and use TikTok, dude. TikTok is from the most unfree place in the planet, next to North Korea. Right? You talk about Facebook being unfree. Okay.
Be careful, we might get in trouble for saying that.
Yeah, well, good. But I mean, the point is that you need to go into these things understanding what the platform is that you're in. And one of the interesting things is, well, I can't post for 7 days, which means I can't share this podcast. I can't do any business on Facebook for the next 7 days. So there's limit. So there are people who are cavalier with their Facebook things and say, well, I don't care what Facebook does to me. They could put me on a 30-day ban. I don't care. Yeah, but you see, I need to use it for business. So I have to be careful. Now, the other thing is, I pay Facebook money to advertise.
Yeah.
So I'm a paying customer. So you can't ban me. I'm a paying customer. It doesn't work that way. You see, Facebook has just like you walk into a club and the club says, excuse me, we have the right to refuse your admission. It's the same thing on Facebook. Facebook has every right. It's in their terms and conditions. We have every right to ban your account or remove your account or whatever you feel like it. And I always tell people who are in marketing, don't just think that Facebook is your only way of getting people out there. It may sound like it's cheap or free or whatever. You can't put all your eggs into the Facebook basket. And now you should be taking less money and putting it into Facebook because of these community guideline things. Because what has happened is in the advertising world, you just can't advertise everything. You see,
right.
you can say, well, okay, I go in and advertise this juice, and one of the ingredients in the juice is CBD. You see, Facebook is going to ban you one time. No, you can't advertise that on all. That's drugs. You're advertising drugs. You can't do that. Or somebody trying to sell, you're making some sort of, I don't know, some sort of pill in their backyard. that is not or something, Facebook is going to ban you. And you're going to be like, oh, Facebook this. No, you did not read. Oh, actually, that brings you a story. A couple of years
Okay.
ago, 3 years ago, a girl calls me and says she's been banned from Facebook. And she starts out the conversation by saying, I've been banned from Facebook. Can you get me unbanned? I'm like, I don't know who told you that I have some magic button that can unban people from Facebook. And this is not the first person who's done this. Apparently, I'm the go to person to find out how to unban them. I'm like, there's no way to unban you. What you do is you have to create a new profile and then start over. She's like, oh God, no, I can't do that or whatever. I said, but why did you get banned? What is your product? What are you trying to sell? What? She's like, well, it's financial advice. I said, well, that's not a problem. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know, Facebook just being ridiculous. I said, well, okay, you tell me what it is. She's like, okay, here's what we do, right? We have a company in Panama that takes your money and gives you 300,000% interest on your money. I'm like, wait.
Oh, yee, yay, 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 yay.
I'm like, it's a pyramid scheme. She's like, no, 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 it's not a pyramid scheme. It looks like that, huh? But it's not. But just to know that
Oh, so it looks like it looks like, but in reality, it's a pussycat. Okay, I get it. Yeah.
I'm like, lady, you're wasting my time. She's like, so you can't help me. I was like, no one can help you. So that's not fair. I want to be able to advertise on Facebook. I'm like, you cannot advertise on Facebook, and I would advise you not to be involved in something like this. Good day. Thank you very much. And I think she had told her friend who had put me on, she told her friend that I was most unhelpful. And then when I told the friend, she said, but she's an idiot or what? So then the girl, she calls me back, I think 2 weeks later, and she says, I took it to heart what you told me, and I decided to go into financial advice full time, not the thing before. But Facebook is still not allowing me to. I say, well, yeah, you see, when it comes to money, trying to give people financial advice on money and things, even insurance companies are very hard. They have to apply to a lot of rules. You can't just advertise a bank. You can't just advertise a insurance. Once money is involved and people's money, Facebook can be held liable, you see. So you have to think about all of these things. I always tell people there are other avenues, other ways. If you want to advertise your CBD product, you go on Ad Junkie, puts their ads out, and the only problem is Ad Junkie is what people advertise on Pornhub. So people are a little
Oh,
people,
word.
people are a little
Now, how would you know something like that, Ian?
yeah, but
You know what? I don't want to know.
no, but
I don't want to know.
the thing is, that's where people are going. So you can't just say, no, I don't want to go there. I feel bad doing that. But that's where your market is. If your market is there, why are you saying no? You're going to reach them. It's going to be cheap. I'm not saying go and take Coca-Cola and put it on porn. No, obviously not. But if you have a product that is, so for example, my brother,
Coca-Cola could be good in terms of product placement. You never know. I mean,
exactly. I said, my brother, we ran just for test. We ran for the tattoo parlor some ads on Pornhub for a month just to see
right.
what would happen.
Okay.
He started getting calls from people asking if the girls, knew of any or what. And he's like, "Now we got to take this ad down. This ad is being misinterpreted." So
Oh my.
they're the users, and they're not they're the. So you just can't go and say I'm going to throw my ad on Pornhub. No, obviously not. But at the same time, if you're going to be selling something like a Ponzi scheme, one Pornhub and sell it. They don't care. you know.
But I mean, even now with Pornhub as it is, because there was a major hue and cry last year about some of the material, and there were those who were complaining that it violated particular standards
Mm-hmm.
in terms of age and what have you.
There's
So
human trafficking too. There's a big
yes, exactly.
human trafficking.
So what they did was that they tightened up the laws in such a way that unless you come from a quote unquote respectable entity in terms of straight laced porn.
Yeah.
There's so many contradictions there. You can't get a foot in the door. That being said, it's still a kind of touchy subject. And it's not as user friendly as it was before, and that's one of the things that's one of the pitfalls that has bedeviled Pornhub of late.
Yeah.
So that's something that
Once you're dealing with something, that like that kind of subject matter, you gotta wonder why people are surprised. Why are you surprised? We live in a society where there are morals, and you could bend them, and you could go around them or whatever. But at the end of the day, you need to have some sort of understanding that I need to be a little bit cognizant that we're playing with people's lives here. It's
indeed
you can't just tell people do whatever you want. If you tell people
right.
do
You got to
whatever,
have a seat. I fully agree with you.
but the story of PH is a very, very interesting story, which we will not get into now. You should go and research it. But what he did, the guy who did that, the guy who created that, did something that in essence is something that somebody like Microsoft or Amazon or even Facebook did. Basically, they just went and bought everything, and he just went and bought everything and created this monster, and now he's catching his tail for it because he is now the target. There's a whole thing on that. We're not going to get into that. But yeah, I mean, this has been pretty interesting.
It's quite
We've gone down
multifaceted.
that rabbit hole. It's such a strange rabbit hole. As an aside, that was one of the things that we were tasked with when we had Cable and Wireless as a client, was to try to sell the on channels. And it was fun. It was actually fun to come up with this campaign.
I bet it was.
No, and people were like, no, we don't want to deal with it. And I'm like, I don't see the problem. Let's see. This is a challenge. Let's see. But now in hindsight, when you think about it, you don't need to advertise that. You can really need
Listen,
to
you don't need to advertise porn channels in pretty much the same way you don't need to advertise Chinese restaurants. People are going to go to anyway.
Yeah.
No matter what. What?
What?
Is it? What?
Nothing. But that's not
Never mind.
important.
But that's not important right now.
I think this is great. I don't know. I think we've kind of covered a lot today.
We did. From choking to porn.
People to give us some more feedback. Just to, I mean, you have a pretty good big Twitter base there. You should throw out a question, on your Twitter feed. What do you want to, what do you all want to hear? If there's anything y'all don't want to hear, or we're talking too much about one thing, you should be talking about something else. I really would appreciate the feedback.
I think I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. I can't post anything on Facebook until Saturday. I have to go and craft. I got out of Facebook jail card thing. I have to go and design that now.
Nice. I can't wait to see what it looks like.
So thanks a lot for you all for listening. What are we going to end with? What is CBD?
What is CBDD? Well, apparently it's a vital component that's used in one of those mind-altering substances that we ingest from time to time. But that's not important right now.
We also need to talk about one of these sessions. We need to talk about where this, but that's not important right now, came from. Huh? I don't think people. So that's a story. You have to tell that story. All right, Jared, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Ian.
On the flip side, catch everybody. Please follow us on Twitter, Jared. What is it, Jared Ricardo B?
Okay, Jared Ricardo B on Facebook, Jared Butts Twitter. One word, I'll follow you back. And whatever you do, do not choke on your almonds, for God's
Do
sakes.
not choke on your almonds. So much. I'm never going to eat almonds ever again because I
No, I'm
can't.
going to eat almonds from here on in. I'll just be more careful with it. That's all.
Yeah, please, 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 or at least get a gag reflex, Jared.
Yeah, a gag reflex, or better yet, somebody to be with you when that crap happens again. Got it.
You just heard the none of the pandemic. All right, bye bye.
All right, all right.
Later.
Bye bye.
Okay.
Have fun.